Hi everyone, welcome back to Edureka, instructor-led online training portal. So we are in our Selenium course and we have seen the 3 modules till now, wherein we spoke about the introduction of your Selenium and its components. We also saw the language that is needed for your working with your Selenium WebDriver, and we have seen what are the different types of locators that is present, and also how to synchronize the Selenium with our internet speed, how to synchronize the code that we have written with our internet speed, right? So in today's session, we are going to talk about the different controls on a web page. So what do you mean by controls on a web page? So as we have already seen in the previous class, the controls are nothing but the web elements that is present on your web application, right? So the web elements can be the text box, the links, the drop downs, the frames that we come up with, and we also have something called as pop-up alerts. So all these things put together are called as your controls. So in today's session, we are going to learn about few controls on a web page, and these are the objectives that we have come up with for our today's class, right? So we are going to learn about frames, what are frames and what are inline frames, and we are going to learn about the important command called switch to, which is a method of your WebDriver interface, which helps you to switch between multiple web elements, all right? And then we are going to understand what are the different types of pop-ups that we encounter when we are working. So maybe an alert pop-up, or the hidden division pop-up, or the file upload pop-up, file download pop-up. So there are different types of pop-ups that come into picture. So we are going to see how to handle those pop-ups, along with which we will understand what are drop-down boxes and how to handle those drop-down boxes. So this is going to be our agenda for today's class, all right? So first we are going to talk about your frames. What are frames and what are inline frames? So here we categorize frames as a web page which is embedded within another web page, or a HTML document embedded inside another HTML document. Okay, so leave the definition. So when you say a web page, what is your web page developed using? A web page will be developed using your HTML tag, correct? So when you have multiple HTML tags, the root tag is always your HTML, and the tag would close at the end of a page, and only then it will be considered as one web page, right? A page which starts with your HTML and ends with your HTML. So within that comes a lot of tags which gives you the different web elements, the structure, the color, whatever you want, right? So what happens within another page? So once you embed a HTML page into a page which is already present, then we consider it to be a frame. So let me show you how we identify that particular frame, right? So here we go to a demo application which we have, okay, to work with frames. So what actually they have done is they have created a sample page and they have created a frame within it. If you see this is the sample page which they have created, right? So how do you come to know it is a page? You can see your view page source, right? So within this page they have embedded another page here. So how do you come to know that this is a frame or this is another page which has been embedded? One thing you can identify using your inspecting, okay? You can inspect it and identify whether that is a frame or not. So how do I do it? I just go here, okay, and I'm going to inspect this particular element, okay? If I inspect this element, now you can just go scroll upwards. Can you see there is an HTML tag again? So this is where a new page is starting, right? So if you just scroll up, here is your full page, that is your parent page, and here is another page which has been embedded within that particular page. So this is known as a frame, right? So how do you identify the element within it? You cannot directly identify the elements. Yes, you can identify using the source code, but when you're working with your Selenium WebDriver, your Selenium WebDriver will have the control on the page which is just outside and not the page which has been embedded inside. So in this case, what we are going to do is we are going to jump to this particular page, okay, from the parent page. We are going to jump inside this child page and we are going to work with it. So how do we consider or come to know that it is a frame? So every page which is embedded within another page will be referred using your iframe tag. Can you see this iframe? So this iframe is the tag which is used to embed one page within another page. Got it? So this is the important question question that would be asked to you. How do you identify your frame? There are three ways to identify. One is using your inspection. If you just find two HTML tags, then one HTML would be the frame and the other one would be the parent page. Second way is, as soon as you go here, if you right click, you will be able to see additional option called as view frame source, right? So there you come to know that it is a frame. And the third way of identifying is when you just identify any element within a page, if you encounter a iframe tag, then you can consider that this particular page is a frame. Got it? These are the three ways you can identify. How do you handle them? How do you switch them? Is switch to each frame is what we are going to work in our today's session. All right. So let me go to Eclipse. So I have created a package called as controls. So within this control, we are going to create a class to handle your frame. All right. So let me say frames handling. All right. So I'm going to pick this main method. Again, when you're working with this, there are few steps which remains constant. What are they? Setting your driver path, launching your browser, navigating through the URL is the main thing that is going to be the same, right? So let us copy that. Here I'm going to copy these two lines, okay, and then I'm going to keep it here. So now what am I going to do? I'm going to navigate through your URL. So I say driver.get. Okay, so when I say driver.get, I'm going to pass the URL here, right? So let me pass the URL here. Oh, sorry. Let me copy from here, right? Here I'm going to pass the URL. So once I pass the URL, what am I supposed to do? I am supposed to identify this particular element. So if you can see here, this is a text box, right? When I say a text box, what are the options that are available to be performed on a text box? You can just type in the keys, correct? So that is what I'm going to simulate in this particular text box. So what I'll do, I will write my own XPath. Okay, so the type is put, the tag is input, and it says type, correct? So here @type is equal to text. So this is what I'm going to do. So can you see it is identifying two different elements? One is this one. The second one is somewhere here, okay, which is not actually feasible. So what I'm going to do is, so this is within the frame, right? So the first one is within the frame. So I can still, it is still valid, right? Because your whatever is present outside the frame will not be considered. But still, if you want, let us group and index. Okay, let us index it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the index, right? And I'm going to check this as well. All right, there's some problem with this is, so this is outside and this is inside, so this is not required. Let me keep it as it is. So here I copy it. Okay, so what would be the problem when I start working with this is, it is not going to help me to identify the element which is present inside my frame, but instead whatever is present outside, it is going to target. So for that, we are going to use the switch to method of your WebDriver interface to switch to the frame. So how do we switch? We say driver dot switch to dot. So there are three ways to switch to a frame. One is by identifying the index, right? So always the index in the Selenium starts with 0. I mean to say the Java starts with 0. So if it is 0, then it would be the first frame. If it is 1, then it is going to be the second frame. Likewise, it keeps on going. Okay, so since it is the first frame, I am going to give the index as 0. All right, next what I'm going to do, once I switch to this frame, I'm going to identify this particular element. How do I identify? I say driver dot find element by dot what it is, XPath, correct? So I'm going to pass the XPath here, and once I identify this element, what is the operation that I have to perform? I have to send the keys, right? So here I am going to pass Edureka to be my key. All right, so let me run this program and check whether this program runs successfully or not. So what am I simulating? I'm just launching the browser. I'm going to navigate through the URL, and then I'm going to identify that particular frame, and I am going to enter the value, right? So it is now launching my browser, right? It has started navigating through the URL. Okay, so it will navigate through the URL. All right, can you see here? It has launched the application, navigated through the URL. It has identified that element and it has entered the value, right? So this is how we are going to switch to the frame and you're going to work with it. All right. So the next way of identifying a frame is using the name of the frame. Okay, you can use the name of the frame. So if you go to this application again, all right, we go to this application again. So here we are going to, once we identify that element, if you want, you can just go to this particular frame here. So how do you identify this particular frame? Using your iframe method, correct? Using your iframe method. So what you can do is you can identify this using your source, right? So let me identify this and we can switch using that particular source and we will move along, right? So apart from that, you can go to, so where is there any other tag? No, this is the only one. So let me write my, what to say, XPath here. So I say iframe, right? So when I say iframe, what will I do? I just give this as @src is equal to, what is it? I'm going to find this element, right? So since I don't have any ID or anything apart from this, I have to use this XPath and I can identify this element, right? So likewise here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to identify this element here. So I say driver dot switch to dot frame. Can you see here? There are three ways. One is using your index, second one is using your target locator, and third one is using your web element present on a page. So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to identify it using a string or identify it using a web element, right? So how do we find out? I'm going to just pass this. Okay, so this is the frame that I'll have to switch to, correct? So let me comment this and I will. So we'll see whether it takes that to be a web element, that is your string or not. Let us check whether it switches, because this frame is not allowing us to identify any ID or anything, right? So that is the problem we have it here, but we'll still see. Okay. All right. It has launched the browser. It is navigating through your URL. All right, there is a problem. It says no such frame exception because it is not able to find any element. All right, so let me make this as an element and then let me switch to this. Okay, so since there is no value for your frame, so it is becoming difficult for us. So how do we identify? We identify web element. Okay, what to say, frame is equal to driver dot find element by dot XPath. So we are going to pass this here and then we are going to switch based on this frame, right? So let me import your web element. All right. All right, so the second method is not feasible for us because the application has been developed in such a way that it neither has the attribute for this particular page, nothing, right? So we are going to identify this frame and we are going to check whether it is navigating. All right, so it has now launched the browser. It is navigating through your URL. All right. Can you see now? It has navigated to the URL and it has also entered the value. So these are the three ways how you can handle frames. All right. So the second way is not allowed. Why? Because it is not allowed. There is no attribute present in that frame wherein you can identify a ID from the frame or the value from the frame where you can switch, right? So usually what happens is when you start inspecting the frames, you will have a ID or a value provided for this particular frame, right? But that is not present here, so that is the problem. So not to worry. So you know the two ways. The second way is if at all there is any ID, okay, for example in your frame tag, like your source attribute, if there is any ID, so ID equals some value, then you can fetch that value and you can switch to that particular frame. All right, so these are the three ways. One is using your index, one is using your value, and the third one is using a web element of your iframe. All right, so the second one we have to discuss about your frames are your inline frames. So what do you mean by an inline frame? Inline frame is nothing but a frame within a frame, right? So you will have a page, within that page you will have another page, within that embedded page there will be another page. So let me show you how it looks. So here we are going to see. If you have to inspect this, can you see this is one page, correct? So this is going to be one page, and then this is another page, okay? And here there is another page. So first one, the second one, and the third one outside, right? So here if you go to this, you'll be able to see. So just scroll up, see here, can you see this? You have something called as HTML tag here. Above this, there's something called as HTML tag here, right? So what you'll have to do is, this is the outside one, the multiple frames one. So within that, you will have the inside single frame. So now what you're going to do, you're going to switch to this multiple frames first, and then you're going to, after you switch to this, within that, since there is a frame, you're going to switch to this single frame next, okay? So that is how we are going to perform. So here I'll fetch this source. I'm going to write this, okay? So what it is iframe, and then the attribute it's @source is equal to what it is, multiple frames dot html. Can you see? This is the frame, which is your outer frame. So I'm going to fetch this, okay? I'm going to fetch this. Now here what I'm going to perform, or I'll create another one, I'll create another class. So I will say inline frames, okay? So inline. So again, all these things would remain the same till your get method. It is going to remain the same, right? So again, what we are going to do, we can go with your indexing, right? We can go with your indexing. How do we go with your indexing? You'll have to switch to the frame system.setProperty. Okay, I did not fetch the main method, is it? All right, let me fetch the main method, and I'll paste this code within your main method. All right, so here it goes. Now what we are going to do, we are going to find the web element. So frame 1, right? Frame 1 is equal to driver dot find element by dot xpath. So this is how we are going to identify the outside frame, this one, and we are going to switch to this first, right? We are going to switch to the outer frame. Next, let me import this. Now how do I switch? I say driver dot switch to what it is, frame 1, right? Switch to dot frame of frame 1. Now where am I? I am inside the first frame, correct? So now from that frame, I'll have to switch to the inside frame. So how do I perform that? I have to identify the second frame. So where is the second frame? My second frame is this one. So let me copy this. I say I'm going to just change this here and check whether it is identifiable, right? It is identifiable, but there are 2 frames like that. So can you see here? One is here and the second one is this. So the second one is the proper one. So what am I going to do is, I'm going to index it, okay? And I'm going to say 2. So it is not available. The element is not available. All right. So this is not accessible. Okay, in that case, I might have to come up with another attribute. There is no attribute as well. Okay, so if I use this tag iframe, so let me use this following. So I'm going to use this following, and then I'm going to say what? I'm going to use your, this one. So if I use this input, let me check whether it gets identified or not. No, it is not getting identified. Problem with your frame is it is not being developed properly. Single frame.html. All right. So do we have anything? No. No other way to handle this frame. ID is equal to multiple. So if I use this /div, no, even that is not possible. So this iframe has been closed, right? So it cannot be done. There are elements which have been identified. So this is the one. So within this, you have something called as, okay, so there's nothing else apart from that. Do we have any value for that? All right. This inline frame is not accessible, right? Okay. All right. Not a problem. Let me, instead of this, let me try to switch driver dot find element by dot. All right. Let me switch based on the index itself. We'll check. This is not supporting. So the problem with this is it doesn't have a proper attribute provided. Okay, now once after I switch to the inside frame using your index, I'm going to identify this element. So how do I identify? I identify it based on the XPath, right? Input @ text is equal to what it is? Text itself. Correct? Yes. It is type, is it? Yes. Type is equal to text. All right. Now it is identifying, and within this is the only one present. So let me fetch it up. Okay. So I say driver dot find element by dot what it is? XPath, and I'm going to do the operation, which is your send keys. So what is the keys that we are going to send? It is Edureka, right? It is Edureka. So when I run this program, so what are we expecting it to do? It has to launch the application, navigate through the URL, go to that particular outer frame, and then from that frame it has to jump to the inner frame, and then it should type in the keys. So that is what the operation that needs to be performed, right? So we'll see whether it works as per our expectation or not, because the application is not that supportive to work with your inline frames. Most of the times in our real time we don't encounter something called as frames, because no application will have multiple pages embedded within a single page. So since this is a main concept in your Selenium, there are the concepts, so we are going through it. So if you guys encounter any frames in your real time, you can use the same approach and start working with it. It should work fine, but make sure the frames have possible and appropriate tags and attributes. All right, so we'll wait till this performs the operation on the web page. All right, so it has navigated through the application. It was able to switch to the outer frame, but then it is not able to identify this inner frame. All right, the problem is, I'm sorry, I have missed one important step. What is it? After navigating through this application, what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to click on this, only then it is going to that, right? So I'm sorry, I have missed it. So let me pick this up, right? So it is your link. So let me change this. So here I say a @href is equal to. So was it href or something else? @href perf. This is multiple, correct? So we have only one element. First we'll click on this page and then we are going to switch to the frames, right? So I say driver dot find element by dot XPath, and I'm going to pass this here and I'm going to click on that, correct? So now it should work if your frame is supportive. So let us launch the applications, the browser, right? All right, so can you see here? So what we have done, we have navigated the application. We have clicked on the iframe with an iframe, okay, which means we are working on the inline frames, right? So which to the outside frame first, and from there we jump to the inner frame, and then we have captured the value and we have entered the value. So this is how you handle frames and inline frames, right? So let us go back to our done, right? So let me go here. So what we were discussing, what is a frame? Okay, how do we work with the frame? So we use this iframe to insert the content from one web page to another web page, and the different ways of identifying is using your iframe tag. You can start identifying. So here we have captured one of the frame. If you see here, so here there's something called as ID, right? Using this ID, you can switch directly, right? We have a web page, so which helps you to work. All right, this is a sample web page. If you want, you can create a web page similar like this, and then you can start switching. Okay, now we have understood how to handle the frame as well. So we have seen how to handle this by index. We have seen how to create a web element and how to switch, and the by name or ID was not possible for us. Why? Because the problem was there was no ID or name attribute. So this you can try by creating a web page and you can start switching. All right, so now switching between the frames using all these have been provided to you, so you guys can start working with your frames. You are ready with your frames. And the next control that we are going to understand is about your pop-up. Okay, so we are going to understand the different pop-ups that we get on our application. So there are 5 different pop-ups when we talk in your Selenium. What are the different types of pop-up we get is, one is your alert pop-ups, one is your hidden division pop-up, the third one is your file upload pop-up, fourth one is your file download pop-up, and fifth is your window pop-up. So these are the different pop-ups that come into picture. So how do we handle all these 5 pop-ups is using your switch to command, and also you can use your alert class in order to switch to this particular alerts. Okay, so we're going to see one by one. I'm going to create a class. Okay, so before that, let me copy this two line. Okay, so I'm going to create a class for your pop-up handling. Okay, first what I'm going to do, I say alert. Okay, alert handling. First we are going to create an alert. Okay, so what do you mean by an alert? Any idea what is meant by an alert? An alert is something which comes up or which pop-ups when you perform some operation on any button, right? So for example, say when you're clicking on something, you would, for example, if you're deleting a user from any of your application, you remember you get a confirmation pop-up, right? The alert comes up and it will ask you whether you want to delete that particular user or not, right? You say yes or cancel or whatever based on your requirement. So that is nothing but your alerts. So what I've done is I have created a sample web page for you, okay, wherein it has almost all the controls and we can work on it. Okay, there is a sample web page. So let me open it. So if you see this web page, you have all the headers, you have a paragraph, you have the text field, you have the button as well. So once you click on this login button, so here is a sample alert which pops up. Okay, so we are going to see how to handle this pop-up, and then we also have radio buttons, check buttons, links, and also images, and we also have something called as drop downs and your multi-select drop downs as well. So this is the page that we are going to use from now on to work with your different control. Okay, you can use your web applications which are available as well. So for now I'm going to work on this. Okay, so let me use this driver dot, right? I'm going to navigate through this URL. So once I navigate, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to click on this login button, right? I'm supposed to click on this login button. So let me inspect this login, right? So it has its ID. So let me take this ID. This ID is unique. So I'm going to say driver dot find element by dot what it is ID, right? So I'm going to pass this ID here and I'm going to click on that ID. Okay, so before we start inspecting the alert, or before we start handling the alert, we have to understand what are the characteristics of that alert. Okay, so when we say alert, these types of alerts are called as JavaScript alerts. Okay, this type of alerts are called as JavaScript alert, and their characteristics are they are not colored, they are monochronous. Okay, they are monocolored, and you cannot move this particular alert. Okay, it will be fixed in a particular location, and also you cannot inspect it. Can you see? I'm trying to mouse over. So until and unless you close this, it will not allow you to inspect the web page, along with which it will not allow you to inspect this alert as well. So these are the basic characteristics, and you can perform only 2 operations on this alert. One is you can either accept it, which means you can either click on OK button, or you can either dismiss it. So how do you dismiss? There would be 2 buttons. One is for OK, one is for cancel. So using that cancel button, you can dismiss this alert. So only 2 operations can be performed on this kind of application. Got it? On this type of applications control. All right. So now how do we switch? How do we switch to this alert? So to switch to this alert, I told you there is a special class called alert, right? So that using that we are going to switch. Now I say alert is equal to. So now what you can do is you can either identify this particular alert, right? And then you can directly switch to it. How do you switch? You say driver dot switch to, right? Using the switch to and using a method called alert, you're going to switch to this particular alert. Can you see? Here I go, right? So let me import this. So I'm going to import this. Right now, using this alert, I'm going to say accept. So when you say accept, it is going to click on this OK button. So now what I'm going to do is, if I run this program, it is going to quickly click on that login button, click on the OK button, and it is going to remove that alert. So but now what we want to simulate is, we want to see for how it is going to click on that. So I'm going to make your WebDriver to wait for some 3 seconds. Okay, so never use your thread.sleep in your real time. This is not allowed and it is not good practice of using it. So here I'm just going to make your main method to sleep for 3 seconds, so that we'll see how the alert pop-ups and then how it will be closed, right? So all right, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to run this program, right? Let me see how to switch. So did you see how it navigated? It clicked on your login button and how it closed it. So these are the operations that you can perform. Apart from this, you can fetch the text of that alert. Once you go here, all you have to do is string text is equal to, what you can do, you can fetch it. So you say alert.get text. Okay, so if you say alert.get text, it is going to get the text and you can print the text as well, and then you can accept it. So let me run this. So it is now going to launch your browser, navigate through the URL, click on that login, it captures the text of that alert and it accepts the alert, correct? So if you see here, this is the text that has been captured. So this is how you work with your alert. So that is nothing but your alert pop-ups, which you encounter when you're working with your web application. The second pop-up that we encounter is your hidden division pop-up. So what do you mean by an hidden division pop-up is, when you're working with your applications, only when you click on a particular link or a button, for example, say calendar icon, so then comes up the pop-ups, right? For example, say if you use your cleartrip.com, okay, go to this cleartrip.com. Can you see this calendar here? So it is hiding until and unless you perform some operation on this, correct? So once you perform this operation, this particular pop-up will be displayed, right? How do you identify whether this is a hidden division pop-up or not? So again, it is not movable, but you can inspect it. And another attribute is, this particular pop-up is colorful. Can you see all this? This is bright blue, right? So likewise, it starts looking colorful, but you cannot move this pop-up, and it is also inspectable. Can you see here? You can inspect the value. Here it is, right? So for this, you will have to use your normal way of handling elements, and let us see how to work with it. So I'll copy this. Before that, I'm going to create another class for your hidden division pop-up, right? So I say hidden division pop-up, right? So let me fetch this main method, and I'm going to copy this 2 lines. So to copy these 2 lines, you will have to do your developer task, copy paste. All right, here you go. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to navigate through your URL. So I just say driver.get, correct? So driver.get, and here I go. So once I go to this application, what am I supposed to do? I am supposed to inspect this particular web element, which is your depart on, right? So this particular web element I'm going to inspect. So here, if I use this, pick a date, so input type data, and you find any ID here, so type I have data, data next. So apart from that, if I click on this depart on, okay, the depart on also works. So that is the easy part to be dealt. So let me write a next path for your depart on. So it is strong, right? Text is equal to what it is depart on, correct? So it is identifying. So let me click on this depart on. So driver dot find element by dot what it is XPath, correct? So using this XPath, we are going to click on this depart on, which will bring up the pop-up which is hidden. That is your hidden division pop-up. So once after you click on this depart on, so this calendar would be displayed. Now, if I want to fetch this date, if I want to fetch this date, what am I going to do? I'm going to choose that particular date and I'm going to use it. Now, if I have to choose it, then I have to fetch this attribute. So this is UI state default. So it is obviously a duplicate. I'm going to fetch this value. I know even this would be duplicate. Okay. So, but we can undefine select date. You have something called as under your data month 1 data event click, and what we have data year 2018. So again, this would be a problem. Why? Because can you see here, even your March has the same attribute. We can undefined select date, click data month 2. So whatever you do, it is going to be a duplicate. So now I'm going to use your indexing and I'm going to fetch it, right? How do I do? I say a text is equal to 25, right? Now you have two things. One is from your February end and the other one from your March end. So this first is for your February end, right? So let me group it based on the index and I'm going to fetch this particular date. Okay, so here I'm going to click on this. How do I click? Driver dot find element by dot what it is xpath, right? I'm going to pass this xpath and I'm going to set this date. All right, so let me run this now and check whether it is going to perform the operation that we are expecting or not. Okay, now it has launched the browser. It is navigating through your URL. All right, now it is going to click on that pick a date, depart on, right? So once it is loaded, so it is still loading, we'll see. Perfect. So it has selected the date as Sunday, 25th Feb 2018. So this is how you handle your calendar pop-ups, which are nothing but a hidden division pop-ups, right? So this is the second type of pop-up which we have encountered. The third one is nothing but your file upload pop. So for example, if you have used your Gmail applications or your Naukri applications to compose a mail with your attachments, so when you click on that attached file, it is going to open your window explorer, right? So this particular page will be displayed, correct? So since your Selenium is an automation tool which helps you only to work with your web applications and it cannot support your desktop applications, so that particular pop-up cannot be handled by your Selenium alone. So in this case, what we are going to do is we are going to make use of a third-party tool called AutoIT and we are going to work on it. All right, so that is how your file upload pop-up and your file download pop-ups are going to be handled. For example, even on your Naukri, when you just click on that upload button, upload resume button, so it is going to provide you the window explorer where you can choose your file wherever you have saved, right? So at that point in time, your AutoIT would help. All right, so that would be taken when we deal with your third-party tools. But the last pop-up that we are going to discuss is your window pop-up. So what do you mean by window pop-up or your child browser pop? So for example, I have something called as pop-up test. There is a website, okay, which says pop-up test. Here it has multiple techniques, okay, to show how your child browser pop-up works. What do you mean by child browser? For example, say I'm working on this application and clicking on a particular link is taking me to another window, which means if I have to click on this, think it is going to take to another window. In that case, we are going to work with your window pop-up. Okay, it is loading here itself, but I don't want to load it here. Instead, it will go to another browser, that is your window, right? So I'll show you here itself. If I just click on this, okay, so it is, can you see here, there is a new window which has been created, right? So these are known as your window pop. So I'll close this, I'll click on back. Now another window has come, right? So this is the one that we have to handle. So how do we handle this? So let me create a class before we start handling it for your window pop-up or your child browser pop-up. I say child browsers. Okay, so here I'm going to copy these two lines, right? Now what am I going to do? I'm going to navigate to that particular URL, correct? I'm going to navigate to that URL. What is the URL? popuptest.com, right? So now, in order to bring up more windows, I am supposed to click on any of the link, okay? So I'm going to click on this first link. What this link would do is, it is going to, create multiple windows or multiple browsers based on the different technique. What it is going to do is, on a single click, it is going to launch 6 different windows. And when you go back, okay, when you just click on that back button, it is going to create 2 extra windows, okay? I'll show you how it works. So what I'm going to do, I say driver.findElement by.xpath. I'm going to write an XPath for that. What it is? All right, I can use this link text, right? Instead of XPath, I can use this link text itself, by.link text, and I'm going to pass this link text, and I would click on that particular link text, correct? So now I have clicked on this pop-up, multi-pop-up test. Can you see there are multiple windows which has come up, right? So there are multiple windows which has come up. So 6 pop-ups have been displayed. So 1 to 6 has been displayed. So let me close all this, okay? Let me close all this. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to click on this back button. Okay, if I click on this back button, again 2 different pop-ups have come, right? So this is a technique that has been implemented in order to work with your pop-up. So we will see how we handle these multiple windows. Okay, so there is a special method in your Selenium WebDriver interface, which says get window handle and get window handles. Okay, so driver dot get window handle. Can you see this method? So this method returns a string. So what is a string? Why do we use this? What is this return type is? When your Selenium launches your browser, there is a unique identification number that is given to the browser it launches. Okay, so let me see. Handle is equal to driver.getWindowHandle. So as I told you, it is going to assign a unique identification number to your browser. So to capture that particular identification ID, we are going to use this get window handle, right? So first let me print this. Okay, we'll see how that handle look. Okay, so now let me not perform this operation. Let me stop it. Even before we perform all this, so your Selenium would have assigned a ID, right? So that is what we are going to print first. So now it has launched the browser. If you come here, can you see this window, CD window? So this is nothing but the unique identification ID provided by your Selenium to your browser. Okay, so now when there are multiple browsers which are opened by your Selenium, then each and every browser would be given a unique identification ID, right? So that is obvious. So how do we handle them? We are going to use another method called as get window handles. So this get window handles is going to return a set of string, right? Why? Because it is an alphanumeric character. That is the reason we are going to capture it as a string. So this set of string, okay, I say set of string handles is equal to driver dot get window handles. So let me import this set. Okay, so I'm going to import this set from java.utilpatch. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to launch the browser, navigate through this particular application, and then I'm going to click on that multi pop-up test. Okay, and different browsers will be invoked, right? So total 7 browsers will be opened by your Selenium, 1 including the parent window and the 6 pop-ups which come up, right? So total 7. So let me first print your handles. We'll see how they look. Okay, I'm going to show you how to iterate through your set. So before that, we are going to print this handles and we are going to see how it look. Okay, so it is now launching your application. It would navigate through your URL. All right, so now what it is going to do, it is going to click on that multi pop-up test, and there are 7 windows which open, right? So if you come here, let me close one by one. All right, all 7 windows, let me close it off. All right, else it is going to fill up. Okay, I'll close this as well. See, now this we are not bothering about. This we are going to handle at the end. So if you see here, there are 7 windows, right? So one, this is the second one, this is the third one, right? And then if we navigate, you have the fourth one here, so the fifth one here, and 6 and 7, right? So what does your get window handles do? Your get window handle method is going to get the address of all the browsers that is opened by your Selenium, including your parent window, right? Including your parent window, it is going to capture the address of all the browsers. Got it? So now let us see how to handle them and how to work with each and every window, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simulate your browser pop-up, okay, your child browser pop-up in this map. So let me not print this, okay. This is important now. So this is very much important now. I'll tell you why. Now, since I've collected all this, I'm going to switch to the windows one by one. I'm going to capture the URL of it, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to close the windows one by one. So that is how I'm going to work. So here I'm going to use your for each loop in order to switch between your windows, right? So I'm going to use it. Let me see how to use it. So for each loop is a special loop which is used for your collection concept in your Java. So this collection concept we are going to iterate through your for each, or you can use your iterator as well. But here I've selected your for each loop. So how do? I just go here, I say for string handle, okay, and I'm going to mark this handle one and I say handle. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to each and every handle. How do I switch? Driver dot switch to dot handle, right? So driver dot switch to dot, I have this method, okay, window of handle, right? So this is how I switch. So once I switch to this, what am I supposed to do? I'm going to get the URL of it, correct? I'm going to get the URL of it. How do I get? I say string URL is equal to driver dot get current URL, right? Get current URL. So this method is going to capture the URL of the current page, okay? Then I'm going to print this URL, all right, and I will quit or close this. I'm not going to quit it, I'm going to close it. So I'll show you the difference between your quit and close, so which we have already seen if I'm not wrong, okay. So this, what we are going to do is we are going to close it. So let me run this program and check whether it works as per our expectation or not. All right, so now it has launched your application. Click on that particular multi pop-up. Now it is closing everything one by one. But the problem is, so it says no such window exception. Why does it says no such window exception? Because when for the first time it goes to this particular application, right? When it goes to this application and it clicks on that pop-up link, what is actually happening? Your first handle that is going to be returned is what? It is your parent window. That is your window that was opened for the very first time. It is going to close that itself first. What it is doing now, my functionality is it is switching to that window. It is already in that window and it is going to fetch the URL of it and it is going to close it. So once it is closed, the pop-up, the other browsers that has come up will be of no use, right? So here it is telling target window already closed, right? So this is the reason you have to make sure that you are not going to close your parent window, but instead you're going to close only the child browsers whenever they are not required. So in that case, what you're going to do is you're going to add a small verification here. So that is the reason I told you this handle is important, right? So I've already captured the window handle, which is your parent handle. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if handle1 dot equals handle. If handle1 dot equals handle, then I'm going to say continue. What does your continue do? Your continue is going to skip the current iteration, right? Your continue is going to skip the current iteration, else you can close it, right? Else you can go ahead and close it. So with this validation, it is not going to close your current window, that is your parent window, but instead it is going to close all your child browser. All right. So before this, you can also have this implicitly wait. Okay. So that it is going to wait until all the browsers are loaded, but that's okay. We'll see how they work. So if it's still not working as per the expectation, we can use your implicitly wait and synchronize. Okay. It has launched the application now. It is going to click on every button and it is going to close it. But again, we have synchronization issue because it is closing it even before it opens. So can you see here? No such window. So it has captured only one, right? So let me use your implicitly wait. Okay. So let me use your implicitly wait here. So what do I say? I say driver dot what it is, or let me, instead of implicitly wait, let me make your, as soon as it clicks on this multi pop-up, let me make it to sleep for some time, right? So that everything else gets loaded up. Okay. So I'm going to make it sleep for 5 seconds. So once it gets loaded, let it start closing. So what am I going to do? I'm going to say throws exception. So you can use your implicitly wait, or you can also use your explicitly wait, and you can make it to wait, and then you can start continuing. Okay. So that can also be done. So here I would run this. So this synchronization is always a problem. So you'll have to maintain it. See, it has launched the application. Now it is going to click on that multi pop-up. So all the pop-ups have come up. Now what it is going to do, it is going to go to one by one and it is going to close this, right? So there's some problem with this. Let us see. What is it? No such window exception. So target window already closed. So why is it telling? So I'm all right. The problem is here. Problem is with your handle one. Right? So I'm using your handle and I'm going to try to switch. So that is the problem, not a problem. I'm sorry for that. So we are going to switch to your handle one and then we are going to work with it. It has launched the application. It is going to navigate to that particular pop-up. It is going to capture and it is going to close one by one, right? So this is what we are going to perform. Can you see one by one it has captured the value and it has printed here. So the first one is your parent window and it is not closed. It is still available. Why? Because we checked whether this particular window, right? Whether this particular window is present that you're going to close, then don't execute the close command. Instead, just skip that and continue with the rest, right? So it went to the pop-up set, it captured the URL and it closed. So likewise, it has closed all the other windows. Got it? So this is how we are going to handle your child browsers using your Selenium and your switch to method. Got it? So the next one is we are going to look into your presentation of your alerts and we'll see whether we have covered everything, right? So alerts, what are alerts? So alert is a message pop-up. Okay, it is a message box which pops up on the screen to give the user some information or ask for an action, right? So you have simple, you have prompt, and you have confirmation. So what we saw is we saw just a information pop up, and then again the prompt is nothing but it asks whether you want to give some input to the user or not, and confirmation pop up is when you try to perform some action, it is going to ask you whether you want to confirm it or whether you want to close it, right? So these are the different types of pop-ups that come up, and here you have the methods that you can use. One is your dismiss when you have the cancel button. The second one is your accept when you have your OK button. We have already seen this get text because we were getting the text of that alert, and send case if that alert is asking you to provide any input. Okay, so the last one and the first one we are going to see. Okay, we'll find for an application where it has the cancel button as well as this, and we'll see how to work with them. And next we have seen this OK button, we have accepted it, and we have worked, right? So we have all your alerts, and here are your programs, so you can use these steps in order to work with your alerts along with the classes that we have seen. So the model boxes or pop-ups we have already seen. So this is nothing but another application which come up, and then so here it asks you, are you sure you want to delete it? So it will have a pop-up, that is when a pop-up comes up it will have a title, right? And it will ask you for the right? So can you see this is also colorful, so you can call it as a hidden division pop-up. Okay, so it can be inspectable, right? So now your model dialog boxes can be a problem to your test automation scripts. Why? See, most of the times when you're working with your application, your model dialog boxes appear not very often, right? Sometimes it might come up, sometimes it might not. So in that situation, you would not be able to handle them in an effective way. So this is the problem automation engineers always face with your model pop-ups, but most of the times now they have stopped implementing this model pop-ups. Okay, so instead they're going to use your confirmation alerts. So there you can say yes, no, and then you can work with them, right? So if a model pop-up is displayed randomly, the test automation scripts need to be able to deal with the model when displayed and when not displayed. So this is how you talk about this. All right, so here you have display random. So again, this is a sample application. If you have such applications or if you encounter such models, then model pop-ups, then you can try to handle. All right, so apart from that, you have the class code, main page class code. Here there are different classes or the methods that has been divided. So we have seen it in only one main method, but here we have divided it into different methods. Okay, so the code division, segregation has been done here. Okay, next you have drop downs. So before we go to drop downs, I told you that we are going to talk about your cancel buttons in your alert, right? So for this site, in this site, there is something called as alerts. Okay, so we'll see whether it allows us to. Okay, here we have alert with OK, alert with OK and cancel. So this is what we are going to simulate. So one is to click on OK, the other one is to click on cancel. So let me perform this operation for you. Okay, so how do? We are going to create another class, alerts with cancel, right? So this is how I'm going to use this. Now I'm going to copy these two lines, right? I'm going to paste it here. The next one is I'll have to navigate to that application, right? So let me navigate to this application, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to inspect this one because we've already seen alert with OK. I'm going to work with this OK and cancel. So how do we work with them? So here I'm going to inspect this. Okay, href cancel tab. So I'm going to write my own XPath. So this is @href is equal to, can you see this? It has been identified, and then I'm going to click on that. So driver dot find element by dot XPath. Am I right? I'm going to click on this and I'm going to click on this. Once you click, I'm going to use this particular button to get a pop-up, correct? So confirm box, click the button on click. So button btn primary. So we'll see whether this is unique or not. So it says button class. Okay, I doubt this. Let me use your content. Okay, contains method. Okay, but click the button to display a confirm box, so an alert box, and yeah, so it should be method. So I'll use your text and I'm going to use this contains. Okay, so I'm going to write your XPath with contains and the text contain this confirm box. Okay, it says confirm box, right? So this should be a comma in between, correct? So now close this. It is identifying it uniquely. So using this XPath, I'm going to click on that. Driver dot find element by dot XPath, and I'm going to click. Right, so once I click, what it is doing, it is going to display a pop-up, right? So since I cannot inspect this, neither I cannot move it, what am I going to do? I'm going to switch, right? So how do I switch? I say alert is equal to driver dot switch to, right? Driver dot switch to alert, and then using this alert, I'm going to dismiss. Okay, if you click on alert dot accept, it is going to click on OK. But if you say alert dot dismiss, it is going to click on your cancel button. So let us see how it works, right? So now it is going to launch your browser. Navigate through your URL. All right, it is now going to click on that. All right, it is already confirmed. So you will not even get to know whether it is clicked or not. So it says you pressed cancel. Okay, so that is how you get to know whether you have pressed on cancelled or not. So we'll do one thing. We'll make it to sleep and then you can execute it so that before it dismiss, it is going to sleep for some time, right? So when it switches, so I'm going to make it sleep. Okay, so this you can start executing by yourself and check how it is going to work. Okay, so the next one that we are going to deal with is what? We are going to deal with your alerts which come up with a prompt wherein you might have to enter the value. So can you see here, this alert comes up with a prompt wherein you can enter some value, right? So you can enter and click on OK. So here is the message that is displayed. So this is what we are going to simulate. Okay, so for that I'm going to click on this. Okay, I just use this text box. Okay, so it is I say @href is equal to text box. So it has been identified. So I'm going to copy this, correct? So here I'm going to find here itself driver.find element by dot XPath, and I'm going to pass this value. All right, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on this, correct? And then once I click on this, I have to click on this as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to capture this also. So again, I'm going to use this prompt box, okay, and I'll use the contains method. So it is button contains, okay, contains, so text comma prompt box, right? So if you identify this, what it is going to do, it is going to fetch you the button. Right now I am going to click on this button, driver dot find element by dot XPath, and I'm going to click on this button, right? And then I'm going to switch to this alert, and what am I going to do? I'm going to enter my name. How do I switch to this alert? I say alert is equal to driver dot switch to dot alert. So it seems it is monotonous kind of job because you'll have to find the element, you'll have to start working with it, right? So the same thing that you're going to perform, but still, yes, this is what we have to perform, right? So I say alert one dot, what it is, send keys, right? I'm going to send the keys here I'm going to pass Edureka, right? So once I pass this, before I send keys, okay, and then once I send the keys, I have to click on this OK button. So what I'm going to do, I say alert1 dot accept, correct? As soon as I accept, you will be able to see hello Edureka, and it would give you a prompt. How are you today, right? So let me simulate. Can you see here? All right, it is going to perform. So the first one, yes, it went off. So that's okay, but still, once we got this image, which means that it has entered the value and it has clicked on OK button, right? So after that, we are going to get this message. So which means we were able to send keys to your alert as well. So your alert will help you, your alert interface will help you to switch between the alert, right? And it is going to help you to perform actions based on your requirement, whether you want to accept it, whether you want to dismiss it, whether you want to only fetch the text, and whether you want to send any keys to it. Got it? So this is how it is going to work. This is about your handling alerts and pop-ups and also your frames. So the next control that we are going to discuss in today's class is what? It is your drop-down buttons. So what do you mean by drop-downs? So when you click on a particular, button, if you get multiple options, then we term that to be a drop down, correct? So I told you that I have an application, a demo application. So let me open that application. I have two types of drop downs which is created there. One is your single select drop down, that is, you can also call it as a list box, or a multi select list box. Can you see here? Wherein once you click on any particular value on a single select, it is going to close that single select. But in your multi-select, you can select multiple values, right? You can select multiple values. So this is what we are going to see, how to handle these two types of your list boxes or your drop-down boxes. All right. So let me create a class before. So I say new class single select list box. All right. Single select list box. So my first few steps would be a copy paste, correct? So I have to go and copy these two lines, launch the browser. All right. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to navigate through this URL. So I say driver.get, right? And I'm going to pass this URL here. Correct. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to identify this particular list box. Before that, we are going to understand how to actually access these values. So if you just go here, okay, if you just go here, you will be able to see something called as a select tag, right? So this select tag in your HTML is used to create your list box, your drop downs as a web element. Okay. So this select tag along with this options. So these options are nothing but the values that is present inside. Okay, so that is how you can fetch the values from your drop down. So for that, we are going to identify this select ID. Okay, so how do we identify? First, you have to identify that element based on the select tag. So driver.find element by dot, it was ID, right? So I'm going to find this ID. Okay, so what is this? This is your list box. So I am going to create a web element. List box is equal to, all right. So now I'm going to import your web, right? So once I import this, so but just by identifying the list, you will not be able to work with this. So in your Java and Selenium, there is a special class called select. Okay, this select class is used to handle your list box, and it is going to accept the argument of type list boxes. Okay, so let me import this. Make sure that you import this particular select box from your Selenium org OpenQA support UI. All right. So only from there it is going to accept and help you to work with your list boxes. Okay. So once you use this, there are multiple ways of selecting your list boxes. So how do you select? Using this object, there are three different ways. One is using your index, select by index method. One is using by value, which is your select by value method. And third one is select by visible text. The text which you can see, that value can be added and you can start accessing it. So we'll see one by one. So using this OCell object, I'm going to select by value. Okay, select by value. So what is the value that you give? Can you see here in your option, there is an attribute called value. So using this value, you can just choose that particular option from your list. So you say ocell.select by value. So if you run this, it is going to select Bangalore from the list box. Okay, so this kind of applications or this kind of list works you can see in your, can you see here? You can see in your applications like your job portals, Naukri, and also your e-commerce application where you can select one of the locations from where you come from, right? Even for example, your Gmail, if you have to give the city, if there is a list box, then you can start using it. Likewise, any application which is asking you for a value to be provided, then this is how you go. Okay, and the next way of identifying is, or next way of selecting is using your index. Again, your index always starts with what? Your index always starts with 0. And most of these single select list boxes will have a default value in its 0th index. Can you see here? It says select a city. So this will be the first option everywhere. So the index of this will be 0 and the actual value starts from 1, 2, 3 and 4. So in that case, if I have to choose your Mangalore, then my index would be what? My index would be 3, right? So this is what I'm going to perform. Now let me run this. It has navigated. Can you see here? It has now chosen Mangalore to be your option, right? So this is the second way of identifying it or choosing it. The third way of selecting is using your visible text. Okay, select by visible text. So what is the visible text? The text that you can see in the options. For example, say your Raichur. Right? So if you use this text itself, whatever text is present, then it is going to choose that particular option. Okay, let me run this now. Right? It is now opened your list box. It has selected your Raichur based on the visible text. So these are the three different ways you can use your select class in order to select any value from your list box or your drop down. All right. So apart from this, it also has multiple options. Okay. So what are the different options that come up? And there are few interview questions that will be asked for you in your interviews on your select class. So one is, how do you find or how do you fetch all the options that is present in your list box? So this is an important question. The second one is, how do you sort the values present in your list box? Third question is, how do you count the number of elements that is present in a list box? So we are going to see how we perform those operations. First one is counting number of list box elements, or I say options. Okay, so this is what I'm going to say. So this remains the same. Okay, let me just comment this as well. So this remains the same. I'm going to identify that particular list box, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a special method .ocell.get options. So this get options method is going to get all the options that is present in your list box, and its return type is what? Its return type is list of web elements, right? So I create list of web element. Okay, all options is equal to ocell.get options. So now let me import this using your java.util package. Okay, so once I import this, okay, now I'll be able to use your list. So now this get options method, as I told you, will retrieve all the options that is present in your list box. And if you find the size of this list, that is, if you find the size of your all options object, then then it is going to say the number of elements that is present in your list box, right? So all you have to do is int list size is equal to, so you can print this list size. Right, so now what it is going to do, it is going to launch the browser, navigate through the URL, identify that particular list box, and it is going to fetch all the options, and it is going to print the size of it. Can you see here? It says there are 6 elements in your list box. So let us cross check. So here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfect. So there are 6 elements, correct? So now the second one is, how do you, here I have answered 2 questions. How do you get all the options, okay, all the elements from your list box, and the second one is size. But this get options is going to return the web element, but we are not concentrating on your web element. Instead, we are just concentrating on the options that is visible to us, right? So how do we fetch that in that case? How do we get the text in that case? All we have to do is, we are going with, so here I'm going to say fetch or fetching the options from list box. So I say all the options, right? All the options from list box. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this itself, the list web elements itself. I'm going to print the size, and the next operation that I'm going to perform is, I say for int I is equals to 1. So why am I using or iterating through 1? Because I don't want to select the default option. Instead, I'm going to select only the valid option, right? If you want that default option as well, then you can start it with 0. Okay, int I is equals to 0, I less than list size. Okay, till the list size I am going to iterate, and then what I'm going to do is, I'm going to get the text of it. How do I get the text? I say string text is equal to all options dot, for every index, I'm going to use this get text method. So how does this get text method work? I'm sorry, let me go back, right? So yeah. So what is the meaning of this statement is, so this statement can be split into 2. For first, I'm going to use your web element, okay, opt is equal to driver, sorry, all options dot get of I, right? So this is how I can split, and then once I split this, I use this opt, okay, I use this opt, and I say opt. So using this alt text, okay, using this alt text, I'm going to add the text that I have taken, the text that I have captured. Okay, if I do this, my array list will be added with the text that I'm fetching from your list box. So once I fetch this, I'm going to use your collections class, and I'm going to sort this. Okay, I'm going to use your collection class, and I'm going to sort this. So what is the collect array list? It is your alt text, right? So once you're done with this, you're going to just print it. So how do you print? I'm just going to use your for each loop for string text. So I'm going to add your alt text, correct? I'm going to add your alt text, and then I'm going to just say print text itself. Got it? So now if I run this, so here I'm going to add one statement, okay, after sorting. Okay, I can add it either here or I can add it here. So this is better, okay, after sorting. Got it? So this is what we are going to perform. What we are performing, we are first identifying the number of elements that is present in the list box, and then we are going to fetch the values and we are going to print it on the console first, and then we are sorting it, and then we are going to print it after sorting. So these are the interview questions that would be asked on your list box, okay, on a single select list box. So it has launched, it has navigated, it has fetched the data, and here is your value. Can you see here? So before it was Raichur, Bangalore, Mangalore, Bellary and Gadag. After sorting, it is still select city because the Unicode of this hyphen is lesser than your Unicode of your B, right? So can you see Bangalore, Bellary, Gadag, Mangalore and Raichur. So this is sorted in your alphabetical order, all right? So this is how you handle single select list box. Got it? And there is another one in your list box, which is your multi-select list box. We'll see how to handle a multi-select list box. Okay, so let me use this. I say multi-select list box, right? So again, copy paste. We are going to copy paste these three lines, correct? All right, so copy paste it. Right now, so I'm going to identify the multi-select list box here. Correct? So the list ID is list2. Always make sure that you're going to identify it based on the select tag and not based on your option tag. All right. So I'm going to identify this element, driver dot find element by dot ID. Right? I'm going to use the ID. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to select multiple values from that. So I'm going to use all three methods and I'm going to select three different options from your list box. How do I do? First, once I identify this, I'm going to create a web element multi, okay, is equal to driver.find element by dot ID of whatever ID that we have, right? So let me import this. So once I import this, I'm going to create an object this Gadak. Okay, so this is what I'm going to perform. Now if I run this, you will be able to see all three options selected on your multi-select list box. For example, if you have come across this job portals, then it will ask you for the relocation content, right? So when it asks you whether you're ready to relocate for multiple locations, right? In that case, they make use of this multi-select list box. Can you see based on the index, it is selected your Raichur. Based on your value, it is selected your Bangalore, and based on visible text, it is selected your Gadag, right? So this is how you handle multi-select list box. So apart from that, your multi-select list box also has extra methods. So what are the methods that you have? You can deselect the values, okay? So for example, say you have a method called deselect by index. You can start deselecting the value that you have already selected, okay? And then you can deselect by visible text as well, okay? Sorry, not visible text, by value and your visible text. And you can also deselect all the options that you have selected, okay? So that is what the functionality here, along with which there is an important method in your select class which helps you to check whether OCell dot, it will help you to check whether your list box is multiple or not, okay? So if you use if OCell is multiple, or you can just print this, okay? So it will just say it is going to return the Boolean value, okay? So it says if it is multiple, it is going to return true. If it is not multiple, it is going to return false, okay? So let me comment these lines for now. Okay, or instead of this, I'm going to comment only this line. Okay, we'll deselect one. We'll see how your deselect works. And then we are going to check whether it is multiple or not. All right, so let me run this code. Yes, it is selected. You were able to see the deselection as well. Your Bangalore and your Gadag is still selected, but only your Raichur has been removed. Can you see it is returned true when you asked whether it is multiple or not? So these are the options you can perform on a multi, right? So you know what a drop down is, which has a list of elements. We are seeing how to work with them. Okay, what are the different types of testings that can be performed? So here, whether all options are displayed in the drop down or not, whether the particular option is shown at a specific location, whether the value that users select same as that from the drop down or not. So these are the different operations that you can perform. So once you're done with this, so you can select it using your different locators, right? And select object is used to create it, right? So OCell is equal to new select, which accepts the list type web element, right? So this is how you perform. Next, select commands, different select commands that you have is your select by visible text, select by index, and select by value, right? So you will have examples on all these. And then you have different select commands for handling drop downs. So here have a demo. So go to any, your script should do the following. So you have an assignment here. You can start working. Check if 15 countries are displayed, options from your list box, and start validating. Check if India and Australia are displayed in drop down or not. So when you've added it to your array list, you can check whether that array list contains, okay, I'm giving you the hint, whether that array list contains India. Okay, if you check like this, then it is going to work with you. So this is to summarize. We have learned how to handle your frames and how to handle your inline frames. Your frames are a web page embedded within another web page, but your inline frames are the hierarchy of your web page embedded within themselves, right? And then we also saw how to work with your switch to commands. Switch to commands are used to switch between the page, the web application and your alerts, the web application and your frame, and also the web application and your windows, that is your child browsers. And the third thing that we discussed about your alert boxes, so there are multiple alert boxes, one with only OK button, second with OK and cancel button, third which prompts you to ask. So that is what we discussed. And your model pop-ups or the other pop-ups which we have seen are hidden pop-ups, and we also saw your child browser pop-ups. And then we discussed about your drop-down boxes. In your drop-down boxes, we have discussed two different types of drop-downs. One is your single select drop-down, and the second one is your multi-select drop-down. And this covers this modules. All right. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop us an email or call our support team. So we are always here to help you with any questions and doubts that you have. All right. At the end, so here is our request. Your feedback is very important for us. So be it your comments, your likes, your ideas, your suggestions. So we are open for everything. You can also send your complaints if any. So we are ready to accept it. So when you give your complaints or your suggestions, we will work on overcoming it. If you are happy with it, then we will try to get it or make it more better. All right. So with this, we are going to end our today's module. In tomorrow's or in the next session, we are going to discuss about the other controls that we encounter in a web page, and please make sure that you practice whatever we have learned today so that you will have a better idea before we go to our next session. All right. Until then, until we meet next time, see you guys. Have a good day. Bye-bye.